Hi, this is Lori Jacobs. I was reading this morning in Matthew chapter 10, and I want to go over some scriptures the Lord was showing me. It's starting in verse 16, and it deals with the big issue that's been going on. I mean, it has to do with a lot of parents being estranged from their children, adult children, and I see it in family members and friends and different ones. I hear that their children don't speak to them, adult children. They've kind of like pushed them away completely. Um, and this scripture just really jumped at me when is starting in Matthew chapter 10, starting in verse 16. It says, "Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils and scourge you in their synagogues. You will be brought before governors and kings for my sake, as a testimony to them and to the Gentiles. But when they deliver you up, do not worry about how or what you should speak, for it will be given to you in that hour what you should speak. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father who speaks in you." Verse 21. And it says, "Now brother will deliver up brother to death, and father his child, and children will rise up against parents and cause them to be put to death." And this is talk about the coming persecutions in the last days. And the Lord showed me when a parent is going through that, and your child, it's like a death. And He showed me that. He says, rise up against parents and cause them to be put to death. So it's like a death. It's like losing a child when you have no connections. And I know a lot of people are hurting. And when I go on TikTok, I see multiple people, parents that are going through this. And that's a violation of the Ten Commandments. One of the biggest ones is honor your mother and father, so that all will go well with you and you will live long in the land. It's like a tree. You cut the root of a tree, the parents are the root. God didn't say if your parents deserved it or if they were fantastic or great. No, He said honor them. It means you never give up on your parents. Your parents would never give up on you. So it says they will be put to death. And He reminded me of the prodigal son. And I'm going to read that after, where the father said, "This son of mine was dead, and now he's alive." So that's what it feels like to a parent. It's like a death. But anyways, it says in verse 22, "And you will be hated by all for my name's sake, but he who endures to the end will be saved." We need to endure. We can't give up. "When they persecute you in this city, flee to another. For assuredly I say to you, you will not have gone through the cities of Israel before the Son of Man comes." Verse 24. "A disciple is not above his teacher, nor a master above his master. It is enough for a disciple that he be like his teacher, and a servant like his master. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebul, how much more will they call those of his household? Therefore do not fear them, for there is nothing covered that will not be revealed, and hidden that will not be made known." So that's good. It's going to be revealed. Okay, verse 27. "Whatever I tell you in the dark, speak in the light, and what you hear in the ear, preach on the housetops." So I felt like He wanted me to talk about this. There's a lot of hurting people out there. "And do not fear those who kill the body, who cannot kill the soul, but rather fear Him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a copper coin? And not one of them falls to the ground apart from your Father's will. But the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So do not fear, therefore, you are of more value than many sparrows." Verse 32. "Therefore, whoever confesses me before men, him I will also confess before my Father who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, him will I also deny before my Father who is in heaven." Verse 34. "Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." Because this is a separating of the wheat from the chaff. For I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, and daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's enemies will be those of his own household. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. This means you got to honor God no matter what. You don't put, like you can't put your kids before God, or and the same thing with, parents. Kids can't put their parents before God. And it doesn't mean you disown them either. It just means you have to do what God tells you to do, and you can't listen to nobody else. If God is for it, then it's fine. Verse 38. And he who does not take up his cross and follow me after me is not worthy of me. He who finds his life will lose it, and he who loses his life for my sake will find it. Verse 46. He who receives you receives me, and he who receives me receives him who sent me. And he who receives a prophet in the name of a prophet shall receive a prophet's reward. And he who receives a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man's reward. And whoever gives one of these little ones only a cup of cold water in the name of a disciple, assuredly I say to you, he shall by no means lose his reward. Okay, now we're going to go over into Luke. 1 second. Okay, we're going to be reading in Luke chapter 15, starting in, I believe it's 16 through 24. Okay, let's see. The parable, nope, that's not it. I must not be in Luke. 1 second. Okay, I was looking in 16, but it starts in 16, but it's Luke chapter 15, starting in verse 16. It says, the parable of the lost son. Verse 11, starting in verse 11. A certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falls to me. So he divided to them his livelihood. And not many days after the younger son gathered all together, journeyed to a far country, and there wasted his possessions with prodigal living. Prodigal living, it means he was away from the Lord, doing things in the world. Verse 14. But when he had spent all, there arose a severe famine in the land, and he began to be in want. Then he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into his field to feed swine. And he would gladly have filled his stomach with the pods that the swines ate. No one gave him anything. Verse 17. Listen to this. It's so important. But when he came to himself, see, the Lord is going to get to a point where our children, these children that are going astray, when they come to themselves, okay, because right now they're like, when you have a kid and you've raised them, especially to know the Lord and to know what's right, and they won't even talk to you, they won't see you, they won't. You wouldn't believe the stories I heard. I could not believe it, and so that's not them, okay. When they come to themselves, when they come back to themselves, because they're being led away by either bad friends, family members, relatives, boyfriends, girlfriends, different things, people that weren't raised to honor and respect their parents, and they think that it's normal. But when they come back, it says, 17, when he came to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have bread enough to spare, and I perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and will say to him, listen what he says, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. And verse 20, and he arose and came to his father, but when he was still a great way off. See, the parents got to be praying. Don't you give up on your kids. Do not ever give up. I don't care what the enemy does. Don't let him try to make you think that your kids are bad. Don't ever speak that over them. You just keep praying for your kids. You pray God remove the people that are drawing them away from God and from his family, and that's what you pray. And pray that God will put godly people in their lives. So it says, he arose, this is verse 20, and he arose and came to his father. But when he was still a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. See, when you sin against your parents, you're sinning against heaven and against the Lord. That's why when the Apostle Paul was persecuting the Christians, and Jesus said to him, Paul, Paul, why are you persecuting me? Because when you're persecuting God's people, you're persecuting Jesus Christ. So, Father, I have sinned, verse 21, and the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight, and am no longer worthy to be called your son. Now listen to what the father says. But the father said to his servant, Bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and sandals on his feet. And bring the fatted calf here and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. Now listen to verse 24. For this my son was dead and is alive again. That's what it feels like to a parent. It's like death when you drop out of their life and don't have anything to do with them, and you're only hurting yourself, because if you know anything, your parents are the root of you. You destroy the root, you destroy yourself, because God gave you parents for that reason. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to be merry. So the Lord gave me that revelation when I was reading in the other one. He says, and they will deliver them unto death. Well, that's what it is. It's like a death. They deliver them. It's like they want you to be dead in their life. And that's the enemy. That is definitely the enemy, okay? I don't care what you want to think. If you're one of those children that did this to your parents, you're just listening to the enemy. And we're living in last days. He's separating the wheat from the chaff. It's time to get back with God and get on the right side. At least spend time in prayer. But that's what the Lord gave me today, and I believe that's going to be the service for this week. So if you like this video, give me a like, give me a follow, and I'll leave a link below in the comments if you'd like to support this ministry, a PayPal link, okay? Thank you and have a blessed day. God bless.